So we got that. And somebody's phone's going off. All right. I know, I'm just testing things out here. There's that. There's that. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, these are some hard acts to follow this year. It's been a really good series of talks, but we'll do our best. Does that look round to you? I don't know. I think the scale might be off, but we'll just see. Maybe it's just this. That's all right. We're going to go for it. Fuck VGA. The thrust of this talk is essentially two-pronged. One, Android devices can do way more shit than you thought, especially than iPhone. I don't like iPhones. And two, do not be afraid to try everything you're going to see in this talk because it's going to make fucking sense. It's way easier to mod Android devices than you thought. It's way easier to get deeper into the OS than you thought. So we're going to start off kind of slow, and then it's going to take right off and do funny things. So we're going to start off with a show of hands. Maybe you don't want to show your hands, actually. So how many people have a computer, right? And you use it for work? Like there's email on that shit. Maybe your personal email at the same time if your boss doesn't mind. You're browsing around the web, you're leaving all kind of tracking everywhere you go, and you might even use it for other kind of messaging functions. We realize that this is critical data. This is information that is private, that deserves to be protected, that shouldn't be spied upon, that shouldn't be lost or compromised. So we encrypt, or we hope we do. Does anybody use hold disk encryption on their fucking laptop? I hope. It is 2013 by now. But you probably also have a phone. And nowadays, with smartphones, we're using pretty much all the same functions on the smartphone. There's probably even some more stuff on a smartphone, like vacation photos or photos that you wouldn't want people to see, photos of things that are, just generally bad. Not everyone knows when to laugh during my talks. So yeah, Success Kid will tell you when to laugh and applaud and cheer because, you need some more drinks right now, apparently. But yes, all the crap that is on your phone, work and personal, you should also lock up. But how many people actually do that? Not a lot of freaking people. John Callis, I hope so. Good Lord, your stock would have gone down otherwise. But that's the thing, right? This is our life. From corporate America, personal, anything across the board. We have our computers and our phones that are basically accessing the same shit. All the same messaging, all the same data, all the same contacts. Oh, thank you. Kentucky rare breed. It's the kickin' chicken. Look at that. Bark. So we're using whole disk crypto on our laptops, but our phones, for the most part, are completely wide open. You say iPhones aren't, but then again, you can't do the things I'm about to show you with an iPhone, sir. So in general, just again to start out easy, because not everyone is a security professional, part of this talk is almost like it's coming up to Thanksgiving, you're around the table. Oh, yeah, no, that goes up here. Right on this stage, yes. There we go. Thank you, sir. Oh, and I was running low, so I need another one opened. So this is kind of the Thanksgiving dinner table part of the talk, where you tell your relatives, Jesus, for the love of God, please listen to what this guy is saying. It's not just me yelling at you, Grandma. Do the following. What are some of the best practices with mobile devices? 1, do not let people borrow your crap or even handle it. One of my favorite stories, back when BlackBerry was a relevant name. We're in an airport, and Bobek is looking. He's like, oh, look at that. I think that's a new BlackBerry. That is the new BlackBerry. He's like, excuse me, miss. This is going to sound crazy. Do you work for RIM? She's like, oh, yeah, I do. He's like, yeah, I recognize. That's the new one. Can I see that? And it was so impressive. Her answer was like, oh, you can, like, she held it up. She's like, it's very fancy, but we don't let anyone touch the devices. It's one of our things that we get trained on. And we were blown away. Like, I had a minimal amount of respect for RIM as they were circling the drain and the captain went down with the ship. But don't let people handle your crap. Second step, don't plug into dumb shit. If anyone saw Kaz and his amazing, yes. If you've seen Kaz's talk about drive-by downloads, if you learn a little bit about things you can do over the debug bridge, Be careful of peripherals. That includes all these popular charger devices. If you bought it yourself, if you took it home, if it's yours, I would trust it. If it's someone else's, if it's just, oh, here, charge station, you can borrow this, buddy, and it's somebody sitting next to you in a bar. Yeah, we took a photo in the VIP suite just before we came down. You'll see it later. Had enough room in it to fit one of these. If you didn't see the Black Hat talk about MAC-10s, basically it's based on a BeagleBone Black. There's a lot of crazy, nefarious injection you can do with a very small package nowadays targeting smartphones. Are you encrypting your email at home? Do you know it's actually fucking easy to do on an Android device? Like, I have GPG running on my Android. I have my signatures working, my signing working. All of it just works. Are you using a VPN? Again, it's a fucking headache. I know how many people like to have OpenVPN working. It's like getting your, toenails pulled out. But it's fucking easy on an Android if you do it the right way. Are you using properly sized passphrases? If you're trying to slam this through your relatives' heads and you're like, no, their passphrases have to be really long, and they say, I can't remember that. What is this icon? What application is this? KeyPass. Do you know there is a KeyPass for Android? It works really well, and you can swipe down from the notification area and copy to clipboard. It's really easy to do that. Perhaps the craziest shit that I've ever seen is that most people I know will know at least someone else, if not themselves personally, who don't lock the device. I don't get this at all. Please lock your devices. You should be doing this. You should also be doing this. You should be encrypting your device. Ever since Ice Cream Sandwich, which was Android API like 16, I want to say, is when they got it right, encryption works really smoothly. Yes, I know it makes the device run marginally slower. Yes, I know you have to do a few things to set it up. It's not hard. Do it. You're like, oh, but some of my apps are storing the data encrypted. I'm sure that's fine. There was a paper that literally just came out last week. 88% of Android apps that have some use of the stock Android crypto implementation, meaning they can save to protected space or they can save things without it, blah, blah, blah. They do it wrong. They fuck it up somehow, and there's like 6 different bullet points that the paper authors go through on how most of the apps fail in a manifold number of ways. If your device is just encrypted at the system level, that is not a problem. Speaking of the file system itself, a lot of people who have never played with Android do not understand the file system. I'm not even a main Linux geeky guy. I could figure it out, and I'm going to pitch it to you. It's not hard to understand. If you can grasp the following, you will not be afraid to root your device, to mod your device, to do all kind of shit to your device. Here are your primary partitions that almost every Android device has. Not every device has all of them. A couple devices have some more, but here's the real deal. And not all of them are important. We're not even going to talk about cache and miscellaneous very much in this talk. So let's ignore that. But you have a boot partition, you have a recovery, you have system and data, and then you have some external memory. All right? And of course, you realize there's a ton of virtualization and emulation going on. So just because it says /SD card is not its own partition on the main drive, it's actually a mounted device. Some phones have an external card. If you have a Galaxy, like my S3 was the first phone I ever got that had internal memory and external memory. So it said SD card and external. And it's not like there's 2 separate NAND chips, like one on the board and one on the chip. There's tons of emulation happening in these sort of things. So internal memory is not like its own chip on the device usually. It's a special partition within user data land. We'll get into that. Some devices don't even have external memory anymore. Like if you have a Nexus 7, for example, the one I have doesn't even take an external SD card. I was like, that's freaking weird. It must just be a chip. No, it's literally just part of data. And we'll talk about the switch between system and data. So how does it all fit together when it works? How does your phone boot? Well, you fire up your phone, okay? The first thing that happens, boot partition gets called. That's a Linux kernel. You guys, I should hope you know what the kernel is, right? No one's asking kernel who. Okay. And that's happening, behind the scenes. You've got just a black screen for a moment. When Linux is firing up, then the system partition comes in. That is your actual system. That is your OS. That's when your phone is doing its booty thing. If there's a boot animation, you're seeing that in system. And then you get to data. The data partition is where all your shit lives. It's very If you're a Windows person like me, it's non-intuitive. You really are not writing anything to that system partition as a user. All of your settings, all of your desktop, everything you do lives in data. And we'll get into this. We'll get into why things you work mod one way, why they don't work the other way, etc. When you want to hack and tweak things, you have to understand a couple things. And I realize some of you, how many people have ever like modded an Android device? That's like more than half the room, so you already know this. You understand the idea of a bootloader. The bootloader runs beneath all of this. Many times, factory locked bootloaders exist. They will only run signed code. And if you unlock your bootloader, so all right, boot blah, 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 here's your standard, okay, there's your standard stock Android, your standard environment. Unlocking the bootloader will still run the signed code, but you can also wipe that out and put something of your own choosing in there. That's when you're running something custom. You're running your own boot kernel. You're running your own separate OS that you've downloaded and installed. You can do a lot more in data land. That's, hacking and tweaking crazy shit. One of the first things I ever found amazingly useful when I got into all of this, when I'm using my phone on a pen test, if I am running a custom ROM, if I have root level access, if I can fuck around in the system partition as well as data, if I've unlocked it, which by the way, unlocking the bootloader is not the same thing as rooting the phone. Ask me later. Most of you who had your hands up, you already understand this. Ask me if you don't understand this. Root level access means, for example, you can fuck around and change things in the system that you shouldn't be able to change. Like, I don't know, being able to take photos surreptitiously without the phone making sound. That was one of the most useful things I ever did. Right before we went into a red team job, I was like, wow, I can't believe that's easy. Delete that sound file, and I could snap, 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 snap. Really useful to not have the camera shutter sound. By the way, I'm going to make a little list for you. And this is going to hurt some feelings of some of my relatives because I yell at them for this, but, here are some situations where your phone doesn't need to make fucking noise. Taking photos is one because, good photos don't need to have a record happening. If you're locking the screen and unlocking the screen, this has nothing to do with security. This is just me being like a dick in an airport. Like, oh, really, you? Your phone doesn't need to make fucking noise when you turn it on and off. Your phone doesn't need to make noise if you're sending messages. If you're sending a text, if you're sending an email and it sounds like a tornado whooshing through or it sounds like a train whistle blowing, why is that happening? And completely you deserve to burn in hell. If every press of any key ever on the phone makes noise, oh God, die. Your phone needs to make noise. This is for you, internet, right here. You think it's not for you, but you do this. Your phone needs to make noise when it's in your pocket. Any function of the phone while it is in your hand and you're staring at it, and I'm not talking about accessibility, like if you have senses that are deprived or something. If you're staring at the phone and you go, send message, you know it's sending. You don't need a sound that's like Lady Gaga going, whoa, every time you send a text. Sorry, mini rant over. Okay. So the ROM, the system partition. When I was first learning about Android modding, and I was like, what is all these people talking about ROM? Like I download NES ROMs. I play emulated games. I was like, ROM that's the dumbest thing ever. ROM is read-only memory, man. What the fuck is everyone calling it a ROM for? Actually makes a little bit of sense. Because remember, in Android land, the system level partition doesn't usually get anything written to it when you as a user are doing crap to your phone. You're not making any changes or downloading, even when you download apps or anything like that, you're not hitting the ROM. All that is the boot environment. You should be aware if you get into crazy modding. The actual boot kernel and the ROM, there's some kind of compatibility issues there. So let's say, for example, you're running a stock phone. You say, all right, I've got my stock phone. I'm going to start modding it. And you wipe out the system partition and you put something new on it. Now, that was the same version of Android for 4.0, early ice cream sandwich. That should work. But if you say, I got this new version, like this, the new hotness, I want something even better, and you put a new version of Android on, if you start using higher level versions, sometimes shit won't boot right. How many people got a Ninja phone at DEF CON? John, 1, 2, 3, like 4 of us. If you tried to mod it afterwards, it was right around the time when people were releasing different ROMs and they didn't they didn't actually have a new boot kernel and shit just wouldn't work. Like, it would just break. So sometimes if you've updated your system ROM and it's not working, put a new boot kernel in there. Like, Hellboy makes new ones. Like, every now and then somebody recompiles a new kernel. That's one of the biggest problems people have. Modern, like, I'm going to download a new ROM for my phone. Usually there is a boot image in there. Usually there's a new kernel with it. If it didn't work the right way, you can extract that out and you can push it manually onto the phone if your update didn't work. So just be aware of that. When people talk about, oh, I'm going to reset my phone, I'm going to factory reset, something went wrong, you're not talking at all about system. Those of us who grew up in the days of, you go over to a relative's house and they screwed up their Packard Bell computer. So you're like, I hope there was that CD that came with it, right? And you just put that in and run it, and it just blows out everything. And then they stopped shipping a CD, and it was a hidden partition, and their 10-gig drive isn't even 10 gigs anymore. That's, those of us who knew reset, factory restore, we think of it as blowing out the entire system and everything. On an Android device, that's not the case. On an Android device, you have all your stock shit in system, and as a user, you've been adding more and more stuff to data. A factory reset is a wiping out of data. So you go into basically recovery mode is what's going to happen there. You can blow out data. Now, be careful, because remember what we talked about. Internal memory doesn't live on a separate chip. Internal memory is part of the data partition. And apologies to anyone going home, watching at home. You think I'm going fast. It's because this room is a lot of smart people, and I want to get to the good shit. But I'm kind of blowing through these pretty quickly. But hopefully, this is enough for you to learn on your own, because that's what hacking is. You learn the basics, then you go on not everyone else's time, not with the rest of the class. You learn on your own. But yeah, be aware of that. Be aware of a factory reset blowing out your internal memory. Ready to be confused? Not all factory resets do the same thing. Some factory resets will kill everything, like when you just boot into reset recovery mode. That's when you're holding down a special key and you fire up the phone. Going into the recovery mode that way will launch the recovery environment. Some of them will reset everything, some will do others. Are you waving at me over there, or are you just smiling? Hey, Brandon, how you doing? So like a stock recovery environment, every phone that's an Android phone comes with this. Usually they're really, really minimalistic. They don't do a lot, except for factory resets and some minimal patching. You can replace that recovery environment, however. You can replace it with, let's say, Clockwork Mod. It's probably the most popular. You can replace it with what I like, the one called Team Win, the Team Win Research Recovery Project. So Team Win, Twerp. All of these give you a lot more functionality. So this allows you to not only wipe your data partition, well, that's a factory reset. Wiping the data partition, that's all it is. You can also, however, install new shit. So here we are. We're in our data environment. We're ready to rock and roll. What are we going to do? All right. Download a new file, a new, quote, ROM. And now that's sitting on your memory somewhere. This is how people mod their phones. It's really this simple. Again, I'm talking to you at home. Download yourself a simple zip file. Launch into your now custom recovery environment. All you're doing is wiping the system partition, extracting from the zip, and pushing out a new, better, cooler system partition. That's all it is. Right there, 3 steps. That's a whole new phone. That is custom Android mod right there. That's all it is. You're changing the system. Then you boot up normally. Okay, oh, I hit something awesome. Wow, new animations, etc. And you're in a cool environment that does things you weren't able to do before. Now, if you don't wipe your old user data, this can fuck shit up. You're like, oh my God, it's not booting, it's just boot looping. Yeah, go into your recovery environment, wipe your data partition, which you should have a backup of, boot up, it'll probably be fine. Now, the Android recoveries, the custom recoveries, are really powerful and they work in different ways. This will sound crazy, and I speak in weird analogies. Think of them like pairs of shoes. Like, hackers don't have a lot of pairs of shoes. We're not known for fashion. Or you have none. But occasionally you can say, look, some shoes are suited to other things. Some of us can get through with the same pair of shoes our whole life. Like, I'm just going to wear my Converse day in and day out until there's a funeral. But every now and then you're like, oh God, this is just not working for me. Huge mud puddle I got to walk through. You put on a pair of boots, or it's a hot day, you put on sandals, or you walk in a hiking trail with Keens. Most people are not aware that some custom recoveries play better than others. Like, I've literally had weird situations where I'm trying to install a new ROM, and it's just failing in Twerp. I put on Clockwork Mod, the ROM installed fine. I have no idea what it wasn't doing before, but I just know it worked. Sometimes I tried to run a backup in Clockwork mod, it kept failing. I put on twerp on a device, worked fine. So think of it as like changing shoes. It's not something hackers do every day, but every once in a while, it's the right decision. So how do you replace that recovery image? That we're talking about all this cool shit in the recovery partition. How many people have ever replaced a recovery image in this? Good, that's like half the room. It's really fucking easy. Either you are running like you're in user data land and you patch the recovery image manually. This can happen one of two ways. Either A, you have root access on your phone, like you have a developer mode or you have a Nexus device, or you're essentially exploiting the OS. It's a little bit dodgy in my opinion. You're relying on exploits in the Android OS to try to push overwrite stuff at the very, very low level of the phone. Not always the best idea. Many phones nowadays support, however, much easier ways to mod things like the recovery image. For instance, there's something called Fastboot. What is Fastboot? It's a special boot mode. Think of how you get into recovery, like you're holding down one button and you press the power. Usually with Fastboot, you're holding down different buttons and you press the power. Fastboot just lets you connect your phone to a computer via a cable and do things at a very, very low level that you weren't sure were possible. If you're wanting to buy an Android device just to screw around because you think this looks cool, find one that supports Fastboot. All the Nexus devices, they all support Fastboot. A lot of, like the freaking Ninja phone supports Fastboot. A lot of manufacturers support it. The G2 supports Fastboot? I didn't even know it existed back then. Holy crap. Some of us, like for instance, I have an S3. Samsung is not as happy with people fucking around with the devices. They're not a Motorola. They're not that bad, but Samsung makes you use something custom. There's something called download mode. There's an app called Odin. There's an open source version called Heimdall. It's the same idea though. You're booting into a super low level limited access mode, but you can tether to a computer and then stomp all over the file system. You can push images out. You can push different recovery images, boot images, you name it. Now, all those photos about USB cables, this is just another side note that I like putting in. If you travel a lot, Jesus Christ, get a long USB cable. I bought a 10-foot USB cable, changed my fucking life like it was religion. Absolutely the greatest thing you can do for yourself. If you haven't done this, why have you not done this? Go on Amazon right now. The cheapest one is made by High Mobiler. They deserve to die in a fire because they fucking fall apart in no time. Go to Monoprice or get a Media Bridge cable or a Belkin cable. Get a 10-foot cable. It's like having a 10-foot wang. It's like you. It's like if you were a USB cable, you can make everything happen in hotel rooms that needs to happen. And seriously, how many hotel rooms you been in where like, oh yeah, you're on the front desk, you're like, is there something with your electricity? Did you just get it last week? You just figured it out? And the plug had to be under the bed in the room next door. Could I open the adjoining room, please? Because I really want to use a power outlet. 10-foot cable. All right, mini rant over again. So, the absolute coolest, most badass fucking reason to update your recovery image. How many people remember Norton Ghost? Yes. For those of you who don't know this about Android, this is a feature, essentially, that exists in all custom recovery environments. The idea in Clockwork mod, they call it a Nandroid backup. Twerp, it's just called system backup. You can fire up your custom recovery. Where's my mouse here? Come on there. There we go. You can fire up a custom recovery and say, I would like to back things up. And literally, it will scan the boot partition, make an image. Scan the recovery partition, make an image. Scan the system partition, make an image. Scan the data partition, make an image. It'll scan every partition on the fucking phone, tarball that shit up, and package it. It is a one-stop shop, any kind of disaster recovery you need. This, by all means, if you are a power user, if you like to stomp all over your phone and you're like, oh crap, why did I do that? This is the godsend. This is the reason. If you do nothing else to your phone, put a custom recovery environment on it for this reason. It is everything you need. And it's like, as Bruce Potter likes to say, some things don't do demos very well. Like, you could give someone an encryption demo. He's like, check it out, it's encrypting right now. It's done. Like, it's not exciting for me to show you photos, but this is it happening. This is all the fucking sweetness right there. Having that backup, being able to be like, oh my God, I trashed my phone, like I fouled something up, or if you have root access, you're like, oh God, I shouldn't have deleted that file, or you're like, I'm gonna try the new Android kernel, because whatever, reasons, and then that gets corrupt. Doesn't fucking matter. Doesn't matter at all. You're just like, yep, fuck that one up, I guess. Give me a minute. I've had this happen to me I've had this happen on the phone with her. I was in another country. I'm like, hang on, I don't know what I downloaded, so this isn't correct. I'll be right back. Just before we got here, we're sitting in the hotel. I'm updating some apps. The latest YouTube app did something weird to Android's credential process. It screwed up the session cookie, and I couldn't actually get my Android creds. I could receive texts and couldn't send them. Like, it was a mess. I banged my head into it for 20 minutes, decided I wasn't going to fix it easily, decided I was at a con and didn't have time for this bullshit. Restore. Can anyone read this right here? No, but above that, what did it say? Restored in 218 seconds. Literally, under 5 minutes, counting reboot time, my phone was just back the way it was. I will figure it out later. For those of us who get real work done and have shit to do, recovery image. Fuck yeah. One more thing about the recovery image that I think is just brilliant when it's written well. Some of us, use our phones like cameras. Do you know that at least in twerp, look what it says. We're wiping system, restored system in 50 seconds. Wiping data without wiping data media. Well, there's a reason for that. I mean, that's where the emulated internal storage lives. But it's also protecting all of your photos and everything else you've been generating this whole time. People have thought this shit through really well. Use what they have thought through. Yeah, because that's how we do. We fuck it up before, and we're like, oh, that's not right. Let me change that in the next version of the code. I travel with a spare phone. I've been in other countries when I didn't have a spare phone, and mine, fell in a toilet. Went to the store, bought another Galaxy S3, had a recovery image that I had migrated off to my laptop, pushed it back out to the phone. I was up and running in roughly half an hour, including the walk down around the corner. That is an amazing security blanket that Linus can wrap around him. Be aware, your external and internal memory, that is not part of the backup. Please keep that backed up. If you don't, yeah, I have lost some good dong pictures before. As if we didn't hammer this home before. Physical access is data access. If someone gets to your phone and they have a data cable, if they can get your phone plugged into something, there's a lot of shit they can do. The Android debug bridge, as many of you who raised your hands, you already know, getting access through ADB means a lot. Even if the phone is locked, even if the phone is off, if you boot it up into recovery or something else, there's a lot that ADB can access usually. Keep your phone encrypted is one answer to that. The other answer, if it's up and running, not just talking about in a recovery environment, if it's up and running, there's an app just called Adb Secure. It's really simple. Is the screen locked? If it's locked, Android debug bridge is turned off. If you open your screen and unlock it, ADB is turned on. Now, in later APIs, I want to say in Android API 17 and forward, they disabled this, so it's literally, this is how it works. If the phone is unlocked, the ADB is working. If it's locked, it is not working. If you have an older version of the phone, or if you have a relative who's like, I don't want to do them crazy mods, at least get them to fucking run Adb Secure. It's one more step. It's easy shit to do. Yes, ADB is exploitable. One app literally solves it. A hidden hardware switch for turning the data pins on and off. That is not grandma compliant. Let's talk about crypto. Not everyone put their hand up earlier when I said, do you encrypt your phone? Dear God, why? Android encryption is really easy to understand. So, all it does is it runs a Linux file system crypto function on the data partition, and only the data partition. Now, you might think that's weird. You might think that's not secure. But remember, unless you're doing crazy crap to your phone, everything you do is in data. Nothing is in system. So when you boot the phone up, regular boot happens, the system OS happens, blah, 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 blah. It encounters an encrypted data partition. That's when you're getting the prompt, hey, this is found. Put in the key, a new block device gets discovered, it keeps booting normally, et cetera, et cetera. Booting continues, there you go, and then you're in your environment. That's all crypto is. It affects internal memory, because as we talked about earlier, that's emulated partitions on the internal data drive. Does not affect your SD card. Some phones, some manufacturers are experimenting with ways to encrypt the external memory card, the external memory. I have no idea if they're doing it right. I think the new Note 3 has been playing with it. I mean, find John in a bar. I don't know what your favorite drink is. Buy him a drink. He'll probably know he'll know how people are doing it wrong. I'll bet you he'll tell you those stories. But I know that by stock, it doesn't affect external memory. By the way, custom recoveries, when they're written really well, this is Team Win again, they support crypto. Like you fire up Team Win, it encounters a thing, it throws a password prompt at you, there you go, successfully decrypted, new partition found, bam, updates the table right away. There is literally no downside for you to running crypto on your phone, other than slightly slower shit. And I haven't even noticed a performance hit. So, a note about crypto. When you're running those awesome backups, which again, they're just tar balls of your partitions, those are in the clear. Those that get built in the clear, those live in the clear. Please don't put them on the external drive. There is a switch selector in every recovery image, internal memory or external memory. Put it on the goddamn internal memory, please. At least then it is encrypted. And if you back it up off your device, which I strongly recommend, like move copies of it off of your phone in case it falls in a sewer somewhere, put that on an encrypted partition. Put that in an encrypted container. Everything you're making in the clear, don't blow it out don't blow it because you're just not encrypting where you're saving it. Removing crypto. Here's another one for you at home. Almost everyone in the room not going to encounter this. It's a one time in 1,000 thing. If you're trying to wipe a phone and recover and I'm going to wipe out everything I've done and restore from stock and blah, blah, blah. Recovery environments let you not erase the data partition, but format the data partition, which should remove encryption. Doesn't always work right. So I've done this 6 times in a row at Dragorn's house, banging my head into beams in his barn. I'm like, why is this not booting right? For some reason, because of that emulated partition structure, the SD card, the internal memory, was still encrypted. So I had restored to stock, then tried to boot, and then I had an encrypt. I was like, why is there a crypto prompt coming up? And my encryption, because I'm an insane person, was 50 characters long, longer than the stock OS even supports as a passphrase. So I couldn't get the fucking thing to boot at all. I had to restore the old recovery environment, go to that recovery environment, and do a factory reset, which really formatted everything, and then it booted fine. Giving you pearls here. You at home, you browsed through 17 threads on XDA developers. You still didn't find that answer, did you? Just gave it to you. You're welcome. Love you. One thing about the lock screen, Android pattern is fucking cool, isn't it? Everybody in your family who had a shitty-ass iPhone, they're like, oh, man, look at that. That's a swipey thing. That looks like technology. Yeah, I liked it too, right? When I first got an Android phone, I was like, this is fucking fun. Wow, I could do this all day. Yeah. First of all, the pin is really, really better than the pattern. John's thumbing up. Yeah, Kaz, look at Kaz's DerbyCon talk. The pattern is stored as a hash. There are not a lot of permutations in how you can make the stock pattern. If you do a custom ROM, that's okay. You can add more dots. You can make it a 4x4, a 5x5. I think Cyanogen supports a 7x7 on tablets. But still, it's just stored as a hash. Everyone knows where the location is. You can totally Ponzor this. The other thing about the pattern, let's look at some pretty pictures. Here's my phone and Lady Merlin's phone. One of them has a pin, one of them has a pattern. It's unlocked, it's relocked. Can we, I don't know if we can see that on this screen. Can we see that? Can we bump the projector? Anybody who knows that projector menu, give me high brightness. If you can figure it out in 30 seconds or less, we'll do it. If not, I'll just make jokes and talk through it. But what do you think happens to people who have a pin versus a pattern? Just shout it out. Yes, people said things like hackers and greasy and smear. Yeah. There, now we're getting there. Keep on going. Push it all the way. Max that bitch. All right. So, Which one of these do you think is easier to unlock in its current standpoint? I wonder which one is the pattern. Let's say you open the OS, let's browse around, let's fuck around. I'm going through apps, I'm just checking things, I'm looking at maps. Oh, there we are, we're here, we're there. I'm super smeared, but still, one of them, I can still see the pattern. So I said, all right, let's go back, let's type and let's swipe, and I've got the swipe keyboard and I'm smearing all around and I'm more typing and I'm erasing, I'm typing, and I browse the web and I'm reading FARC and I'm reading about bacon and the TSA. Pattern, I still think it's pretty fucking legible right here, right? So all right, let's take a lot more time. Let's read more articles. Let's go, let's kill apps. I'm doing weird maintenance on the phone. I'm putting it away. I'm checking, reading out. I almost think that you could get half a guess that pattern is almost still there. The PIN numbers, that's a mess of shit right now. There's nothing about that is giving you any useful intelligence on how to open that phone. I am how did you know I'm left-handed? You are a genius, sir. Oh, well, yes, drink. So, we're back to the OS again. Let's go ahead and shut it off and just put it away. Let's do that thing where you wipe it in you put it away. I swear, maybe I'm a crazy person. I can still see the goddamn pattern. It's a friggin' Sigma and this and the there. So, all right, let's put it in my pocket. I went out of the hotel room. We walked we didn't do Diamond Head that day, but we walked around Oahu and we're all over the place. I came back later. I'm like, all right, this shows you that if you keep your phone in your pocket all day long, maybe the pattern's not very visible. Until the fucking moment you unlock the phone and it's back again, goddammit. The pattern is really, really bad. Don't use the pattern. Yeah. One more thing about the pattern. If someone has a PIN lock, there's a very good chance that they could be running the crypto. They could have an encrypted phone. If someone has a pattern lock, don't know if you could hear sad trombone there, but yes, there is no way to have system-level encryption with the pattern lock. It does not work that way. So if you see someone swiping their phone unlocked, you know they're not using crypto. Have fun with that. But you're saying to yourself, that's awesome. You can turn that down again. Thank you. That's awesome. I use crypto. My phone is encrypted. I am super secure. Maybe. There's one more problem with that. Most of you who are using the stock crypto, you are aware that when your phone boots up and it says, encrypted phone, you have to type something in. It's probably your PIN. The stock Android functionality is to use whatever your unlock key is, the PIN or the passphrase, as the crypto key or passphrase. That blows. That is really bad because you have two choices. You can either have a really weak crypto passphrase, or you can be like, hang on, I can look up the directions in 2 minutes. Hang on. Correct horse, no, fuck. You can't unlock your phone with a 40-character password. That's inefficient. Thank God some really awesome person just wrote the cryptfs utility. What does it do? Well, it uses root permission to change the goddamn key on your data partition encryption. So you can literally, this is my phone. I have two phones. One of them has a 6-digit PIN. One of them has an 8-digit PIN to unlock the screen. The crypto passphrase on my phone is way longer than 6 or 8 fucking characters. Really goddamn easy shit. Run cryptfs, and now if you ever change your PIN or password, if you ever change your unlock, it updates the partition table again. It updates the crypto. Run cryptfs again, you can update it again. But that's it. That's so fucking easy. This is easy shit right here. Easy shit. Let's get into some advanced shit. Says if I had a mustache, I would twirl right now. How many people have been running, let's say, CyanogenMod for years? Anybody run Cyanogen 7? Oh, back in the day, yes. The old, I think they killed it after CM7. In Cyanogen 7, whenever you install a new app, they were this app would like to piss in your face and your ear. It lists the permissions that it needs. And you just had to, you either say no, thank you, and walk away, or you just bend over and take it. That's how Android works. BlackBerry was the only OS that formally, officially let you just line item veto various things. Cyanogen 7 had this cool feature where you could go into the management of the app, you could look at the permission list and tap on permissions and literally, can you see the difference there? Like hardware control, vibrate. Like, why do you vibrate my phone? Fuck you, you just turn that off. You could turn off a lot of shit. Here is some dumbass free bike race game. Free games are the worst offenders for a lot of bad crap happening on phones. You know that, right? So I'd look at all, like, why the hell? Location? Does this game not play correctly south of the equator? Is there a Coriolis effect? No, swipe, 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 bam, 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 bam. You could just kill permissions. It was an amazing idea, and it failed a lot. Apps got really angry. Apps would die. Some really, big apps, they intentionally made their shit break if the permissions weren't there. One of the biggest offenders was the NFL Network, like Sunday Ticket, and other apps like Facebook. So if permissions didn't work, the app would just force close. It would die. And that's why they took that feature out. But other people have still been working on permission hacking. And all those hands that were up earlier, I don't know if everyone has seen this before. There's a functionality called pDroid, Android Privacy Protection. And oh my God, I would personally I would jack off or find people to jack off Civiat and Matrod. They've been working on this for ages. There's a totally open source version. You can read all about it. The permission management suite that is available in Android now, in the custom ROM world, is unfucking real. Now, a lot of people don't get this when they see, like, it's in the Google Play Store. You can find the pDroid manager. And people are like, oh my God, I got to download it. That looks cool. Just slow your roll. So, understanding permission hacking. Yes, there is this app called pDroid, and it's a regular app. It lives in user data land, blah, 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 blah. You can do things. The app does nothing unless you have patched your phone's system partition. The actual ROM running on your phone. You have to do a patch of that zip file and all the components within it before you push it to the phone. We will do workshops in the future just showing people how to do this. It's become easier and easier over time. Again, I'm not a Linux guru. I figured it out by myself while drunk. It's not that hard. It's a very much a U.S. Marine that my rifle without me is useless. Without my rifle, I am useless. You need both. You need the management app and the patched system. If you have it, it gets really awesome. Because, it's like, oh, you want my device ID? Fuck you. Oh, you want my GPS location? Fuck you. You can just smack the apps around. You can selectively tell apps what they get and don't get. It's absolutely wonderful. And it's a fucking good feeling. Oh, yes. You noticed I was out. All the empties are falling everywhere. What did you put in here? Is that? Oh, it's a cork. Cork didn't do well. Does the stock Nexus, someone tell me, does the new, we don't have the new Nexus 7. Does the new Nexus 7 have this? Let's see. Permission management. Oh, so no, this is something different. Yeah, I know what this is. So they started adding a tool that would let you selectively block, kind of like the old Cyanogen mod style, without breaking it though. What the hell do they call it? There's a name for it. It sounds like permission admin. I'm gonna blow this. Sorry, everyone at home. You're losing faith in me right now. Look at you. You don't put the other tab on. Watch Veritasium later. I'm important. If you're not subscribed to Veritasium, he's a good channel. Australian dude, fun. No, what the new thing does is just selectively block access to certain controls. So, right, so we've got, can you read my contacts? Can you modify my contacts? Can you vibrate? It blocks access to what they call protected data. pDroid does something else. pDroid does something far more, Google would never authorize this originally. So here's your app list, right? Like you can drill through even system level apps. Even when you're installing, I love this. You install a new app or you update an app, you get a message like, oh, this has changed permissions. You can tap right on it. It drops into the app. There you go. Here are all of the things, for instance, in my Twitter client. Plume, I run Plume because it's the best of a broken situation. I've never found a nice Twitter client I like. If Twiko would support multiple users, good God. But here's a bunch of different things. Not all of them appear in what you were showing me. Some of them, and they appear in different ways. Like, I'm just denying a bunch of shit. This is how almost every app on my system is. Like, oh, you want a device ID? You want a phone number? You want fuck you. You get network. That's all you get. You get TCP IP. You don't get anything else. You don't pass go. You don't collect $200. That's not the only thing you can do, though. Let's say you have a free software vendor making a game, and you know that they're like a marketing spam company. What's the little question mark mean? That means random junk data. So every time the app calls for this thing, it throws out random bullshit. And it's like, oh, device ID, I'm this. No, I'm this. No, I'm someone else. Adrian, what's your question? Could you modify it yourself? Now, that's a fascinating question, because what do you think the AB thing is? You can specify spoof data with pdroid. So, like, maybe this was my SIM card serial. Maybe this was my Android ID. I don't know. There's a lot of shit you could do here that involves licensing of paid apps that I'm not going to talk about. But let's do a little demo. Let's do a little bit of fun something or other here. Let's see if I can I borrow, can you come up actually? Are you stable enough? Can you stand straight up? Can you just hold my microphone? So, let me do that off camera while I unlock my phone. Yes. So, bring that up to my face. All right. No, this, different skill set. So here is my phone, and here's Google Maps, all right? Now, we're indoors, so it's hard to get a GPS lock, but you can see earlier I had one. So put that up, all the way up to my face. Be a man about it. There you go. So, change the, there we go. Oh, wait, there we go. Let me, here, we'll go this. There we are, nice. So that's Nashville. More or less, right? The farther away? I don't know about that. I think closer was the way to rock it. There we go. Look at us. We're there. We're in Nashville. I'm talking right now in Nashville. But what if I go out of Nashville? What if I go to pdroid Manager and I find maps and I say location. Let's save that. That's random. Let's go back to maps. Am I still in Nashville? Location. Whoa! Oh, wow. I'm like on the deadliest catch. I'm way out in the sea. Let's go back into maps. Where am I now? I'm in Canada, eh? That's not right. Let's go back. You could do this all day and just have fun. Like, where am I? I'm out in the Indian Ocean. How about now? You never know where you're going to turn up exactly. I'm off of Africa. I'm a slave ship. That's appropriate humor. What gets really interesting, though, is what we talked about earlier. Let's talk about manually setting data. So, location. I had some notes here, and you'll have to pardon me for a minute while we deal with this. All right, we're going to copy you, go back to pdroid. So my longitude, and that needs to be negative, or else I don't know where I'm going to end up. And just in case it pulls the straight GPS location, let's do that. Everyone's being so polite and nice. Look at this is like slow demo time. And now I said something, so people are gonna bitch. Drink. Yeah, there's nothing much more to drink. I'm gonna have to get more of that whiskey. All right. God damn it! I'm trying to do phony things. This was something that I didn't complete earlier, and it would have been really fun if I had done it, because my goal was actually to check in enough times on Foursquare that I could be the mayor of like Jefferson's Head at the freaking Washington Monument. I don't know if it's gonna work now. Let me see. We've got demo effect maybe. No, we got this one. That's good. Oh, I didn't paste this one in. Paste. There we go. Save. No, I can be on a famous American's head. There we are. Where's the where we go? Satellite. Yes, there we are. We're on top of Mount Rushmore right now as we do this talk. Thank you, Adrian. Now that's funny, right? Like, we're just up here having a good time. But imagine the actual implications of this. Imagine intentionally trying to throw people off your scent. Imagine like, ooh, this guy's got bad OPSEC. He's showing his GPS location when he tweets. Or he's, checking in on Foursquare, let's say. Like, you can be a lot of places that you aren't actually, and you wind up, leaving breadcrumbs in the wrong place. Like, this is the kind of thing I want to teach people about if they are soldiers or even contractors serving in hostile areas. This is the thing that you virtually would never need, but if you do need it in a pinch, I don't even know. Even something like sending people across town. The guys are coming for you, and they knock on the wrong apartment building, and you're trying to get to a fucking airport. That's wild shit to me, and I love that. Well, the thing about that, when they triangulate the cell signal, this is the part where I don't say a whole lot. So these are a bunch of terms that you probably only know if you work in the mobile industry. If you don't work in the mobile industry, here's what they are. A lot of things that for a very long time, the phone literally did in firmware. All of these features were burned onto a chip, and the phone passed that information at a very low level to the cell network. The only kind of phone hacking you used to be able to do with like the Nokia brick was making IEDs. Like, there's not a lot you can do to phone hack. I love the EOD tech. Like, look at you see what that says, right? It says 1 missed call. That's kind of freaky. But there's not a lot of phone hacking to be done on old phones. In modern Android devices and modern smartphones, this is all handled through software. All of these values are cached in the phone's memory. They are passed through the system level at the system. You can fuck with this, is how I will end that statement. I have accidentally fucked with this when I started pushing out old backups into other versions of phones, and I had a broken phone with a screen that was cracked and a good phone, and all of a sudden they both had the same IMEI, and I was like, oh, that's not supposed to happen. This was in another country, whoever's the head of the FCC. I was in Venezuela at the time, so I wasn't doing anything wrong. No, I'm not going to get into this unless you're a really smart person. You can figure it out on your own. The people who, like Civiat and Maidrod, all those guys who make P-Droid, they are not going to answer your questions on XDA when it comes to how do I spoof this or that value. It's all fucking possible, though. It really is. So bear that in mind. Once again, let's review it. What are your best practices? You don't let people pick up your phone. You don't let them handle it. You don't let them fuck with it. You don't plug in dumb shit. Dumb shit doesn't always have to look like dumb shit. Like, this was photos from when we were at SkyDogCON. Like, this is Viz was showing all of his power packs. Like, there's a lot of room inside of these popular power packs nowadays. We were sitting in the speaker green room, and someone was like, what is this? Who doesn't anyone know? This is a speaker badge. This is a power pack. Look at the size of that motherfucker. It's as if someone made a power pack that's designed to take a BeagleBone Black from the rack, right there, stock. Fortunately, we found out it was Robin's, but it would have been way funnier if no one knew who it was. If it was just like a power pack that showed up in the speaker room, like, charge your device before your talk. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I set up a little photo there nicely with the champagne and the, the SET. So, yeah, like, if you have these cool peripherals, use your own. Worst case scenario, right? Like, we just flew back from, where the fuck were we? Hack in the Box. Hong Kong to Chicago is 15 hours. I've tweaked the hell out of my phone to do battery life. Even with that, I had to charge it because I was playing a lot of emulated shit. Turn your fucking phone off. Just turn your phone off if you have to plug it into something dodgy. And I don't consider a seat back, super dodgy, right? But no matter who you are, if you're just really paranoid, turn the phone off. If someone has written a custom poisoning whatever that deals with your specific model phone off, like firmware, low-level chip shit, there are already 6 guys in black balaclavas in your attic at that point. Like, you are already so owned by the government if that hits you. Turn your phone off. What do you weigh? What's up? Adrian points out, Make your own freaking hacked cable. Cut the data lines. Just use the 5-volt. You should monetize that, sir. I got 2 hands. Foxwave already has one? You're kidding me. Was that what you were going to say too? Yeah, so apparently this is already a thing. It's already being sold, manufactured by Chinese children. Look on Deal Extreme. Yeah. So please encrypt your fucking mail. If you're not using K9, it's one of the nicer IMAP clients. It supports APG very, very nicely. If you're not using a VPN, ask someone who is. I will teach you how to set one up if you want. One of these days, I'm going to turn this into like a training for, people who are serving overseas who aren't us, who just need to know how it works. Maybe they'll even get a phone out of the deal if we can manage to make that work. Use proper goddamn passphrases. Save them in KeyPassDroid if you have to, because KeyPassDroid should be saved to a protected area, internal memory, which you should be running with crypto. Lock and encrypt your device. Use a long password when you do. And please, by the way, power it the fuck off if you're going through a sensitive zone. If you're going through a border zone, don't just leave it in your pocket. That is the moment when the phone is supposed to be off. Because if someone says, excuse me, we need to talk to you in this room, you're not trying to like hold down the power button for 10 seconds and hope that you get to the room before they beat you. No, like your device is already off. That's how the encryption protects you with the very long passphrase. Don't install random bullshit apps. If you saw George's talk or other talks, you know that a lot of the smartphone hacks nowadays, they just involve getting dumb people to do dumb shit on their phones. Like Free Money Factory, that seems legit. Yeah, don't do, and even for legit apps, use pDroid. If you don't know how, we will run workshops in the future. Ping me about it on Twitter. We're going to make workshops, patch your OS, run pDroid. I have patched up so much of my phone that the actual stock phone barely works sometimes because I'd rather have crap. I'm like the open BSD of Android. I'd rather have shit break than send data where I don't want it to go. No, I'm not that. Yes, back up your shit, back it up securely, back it up off device. And by the way, practice all of this. Who saw Wynn's talk last night? If you didn't live practice, you're like, oh man, we have this amazing risk, disaster recovery thing. It's gonna be so great. And you're like, wow, you paid for these generators? That's amazing. How much you spend on that? And you have double cable? Wow, what you're prepping. When's the last time you tested it? And they're like, well, we would never do that. That would be risky. No, motherfucker, test that shit. Literally, fuck up your system directory. Delete that delete it all. Just stomp all over the phone. And then, I don't have to be at work for 6 hours. Fix it. If it doesn't work, use your spare phone. If it still doesn't work, sit at your desk, pretend you're working. And I really want to play Angry Birds. Fix it. Try it. Stomp all over your crap and see if the backups are working the way they're supposed to work. And if you ever suspect something went wrong, if you left your phone somewhere and it was like in a cafe and someone's like, oh, look, someone left their phone. What do you think they have? If you think only bozos found your phone, still boot to recovery, wipe everything out, and run a restore operation. If you think non-bozos found your phone, like a police officer said, excuse me, I want to take this for a second. Maybe you're down in Arizona, and they're like, you look kind of brown. I don't know. We need you to talk to somebody. Who knows what this device is? What is it? Nobody knows. Everyone doesn't want to admit to being a Fed. It's a Celebrite. Yeah, if you think someone who actually knows what they're doing plugged into your phone, boot into download mode or Fastboot, push a fresh copy of your recovery image onto the phone. Then restore from backup. The backup should be encrypted on the encrypted drive. Push out the new backup. You're probably fine if you wipe the cache at the end. If you think something seriously happened to your phone, like you were taken into the back room during a border crossing and your phone was out of your control for more than about 20 minutes, which is literally longer than it would ever take, please just fucking wipe it and ditch it. Wipe it and ditch it. God damn it. Wipe it and ditch it. I'm talking to you right there on the camera, Edward Snowden. Wipe it and ditch it. How much does it really cost to switch to a new phone? Restore in a trusted backup on a fresh stock phone that you bought in a store at the local, whatever corner. They don't cost a lot. Now that the S4 is out, my phone costs less than $400. You fucking know I have 3. How much would you protect this data? If someone said, you just got all this pwned, would you like to magic wand reverse time? How much would you pay them? How much would you pay to not have your vacation photos or your photos of you at a conference like SkyDogCON fall into the wrong hands? If it is less than $500 or $1,000, Jesus Christ, wipe the phone, use the backup. That's why this exists. That's why you should try it. It's not fucking hard. I went over by 5 minutes, but you were all very polite and you listened. Thank you for being here very much. I don't know if we can do questions or if someone, who's ready to go next? Who's up? Brandon, you're up. All right. I'll drink, and then let's just do questions in the bar or the party. Sound good? Or find me on Twitter or something? All right. Thank you very much. Here's Brandon. Yes. Here, you take this back.